The X-tinction Agenda, comics and movies of the 80s, 90s, and more.
Yeah,
I gotta get ready. Fuck.
gonna get fired up again after Eggs Morales talks.
All right, Extinction Agenda, no vetoes.
No Veto's back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Halloween edition, spooky, spectacular. Yeah. These fucking movies. These movies, man. Holy fuck. Okay, so
Okay. I think we should go off of Cat People's first.
I think so too. Yeah, because I think Halloween's gonna get the most laughs, maybe.
Save the best for last.
Yeah. So okay, so I had you watch Cat People, and I'm sorry because I didn't think it was going to be this way. I didn't know what movie I had picked.
It was hard to take.
Yeah, 1982. It's Paul Schrader, writer of Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. Director.
An off week.
I looked at his career. I don't think he's having an off week. I think that's what this guy's about. Like, this guy's just a weird fella, but you know, he produces when he's producing material for himself, it's a little strange. And then for others, I don't know. I've never seen. You know what? I've never seen Raging Bull. I'm gonna say that. And he also did a De Palma movie called Obsession, and I ain't seen that, and I bet that's pretty fucking good too. But then he also did his own movie called Blue Collar, starring Richard Pryor playing two characters, I gather, and that's weird. That was like that's before this, right? So
not as weird as Cat People.
Yeah.
The first thing that happened, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get a hold of this baby, but I did.
Good work.
First impression that it was really fucking weird, man. I don't know what kind of pace we were going for here. It opened up kind of like the Terminator with the sand over the skulls and stuff.
And the David Bowie humming, and I was like, actually, I thought the movie was going to be really good with that opening up.
Yeah,
because I love that aesthetic. I was like, this is fucking rad. I was so proud of myself. I picked a good movie.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Come to the table. I gotta say, I was a little, and then I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, it fell apart almost immediately.
Malcolm McDowell was really invested in the role.
He wasn't he? Yeah, it was like, yeah. Normally, even in Clockwork Orange, I don't think I really Malcolm McDowell. In a lot of the times I see him, I never see him as an actor. I see him as this collection of tics and features that speaks, and that's what you're paying for. But I never get the impression that he's playing a character. In this one, I feel like he could latch into this one and express the true Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean? He's a great actor.
What do you mean he's a great actor?
He was really creepy. He was like a molesty brother.
Yeah.
I don't know why his sister came to visit him in the first place.
Their whole backstory is something about a circus. I don't know. I never quite pieced it together. Like, I'm sure it was there if you listened, but the movie was so slow and sort of meandering. Even in had only a couple intense scenes.
The guy on his arm ripped off.
Yeah. I said a couple intense scenes.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
That stumped me, that scene.
Yeah, that was really weird. Well, so all the characters in this movie are all TV actors, except for Malcolm McDowell and Nastasia Kinski. But everyone else is just I saw John Larroquette in this movie. I was so fucking happy to see John Larroquette.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was
he was like their accountant or whatever. It's like, can't we just kill it? And you're like, Dan.
No, man, he's a slime bag, right? He's he's a typecaster. That's fine. He was, I saw him, I laughed. And then but yeah, I know what you mean, but I imagine like at this time or whatever, it was like the amount of nudity and uncomfortable sex scenes in this movie, which don't worry, I paid back in the No Vetos.
Oh, good. Oh yeah, we gotta. All right, okay, go on.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that there are certain actresses you just don't get to have if you're gonna push that type of thing. There was a lot of full frontal. There's not a lot of actually. There was a lot of tits and ass in this movie. Really, really awkward though. Yeah, but really awkward. And this it was really awkward, like socially awkward. She was socially awkward. I didn't know what was happening. I interpret that Malcolm McDowell spent the majority of the movie locked in a cage as a cat. And then came out as like a weird like freakazoid once he finally escaped. Incidentally,
fun fact, the leopards weren't actually leopards. They were cougars that were dyed black. Because apparently you can train a cougar, but not a leopard, which is why they were able to pet its face and stuff like that near the end.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
Because when they do... Oh, go on.
Well, yeah, I think because even Kate watched a little bit of this with me, but she was disturbed that they were using the cats in such an aggressive filming way.
For sure. Well, even worse than that.
Which is from a bygone... Yeah.
When he's dissecting Malcolm McDowell, I guess, John Hurd is Oliver, and they bring out a cat, and it's just laying there, and they're like, I was like, that's a live cat. They just sedated that cat for this movie. You can even see its paws twitching as John Hurd's doing his thing, and I was like, wow, we really don't. We would never do that now.
Oh no, you can't do any of that. Yeah. You see a lot of that kind of animal stuff though back then. We used to just like film guys on horses, just trip the horses for real.
Yeah.
Have the stunt man do a combat role. Shit like
that. It was super weird. Getting back to John Hurd, it was weird to see the dad from Home Alone in the starring role in this, and having sex with a beautiful woman and stuff.
I could not place him.
Yeah, the whole movie I was like, who is that guy?
Thanks for doing that to me.
Yeah.
Oh man, especially when he dropped trow and sat on the bed next to what's her name there. I was like, this is so weird and awkward.
Yeah. And there's back to John Hurd. He was also the lead in Chud. So I don't know, just getting back to earlier reference.
The funny thing was he was not really established as the lead character till the movie was well underway, so it was just bizarre, kind of.
I guess you're right. He really comes in under the wire as the main love interest, But just I guess they have to do that.
That gave her a job, and
this
guy's on the docket.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
And then the lady who played Alice, Annette O'Toole, that's Superman's mom from Smallville, and she was Lana Lang in Superman 3.
Really?
Yeah, and I always thought
I don't spend a lot of time on those Superman movies.
Well, I only it was another. I was like, who is that woman? I know that fucking woman. The whole movie, I was like, who are all these people? The guy who gets his arm ripped off is Sitwell from Arrested Development. And I was like, that it's just weird. Everyone in this character has all these extra things associated with them, and as I'm watching it, it's a big weird hallucination overlap, and I was like, fuck, what an awful experience. And then all the cat Malcolm McDowell, he jumps on the bed like a cat or whatever, and it's just so, it's they did that by filming it, him jumping down, and then they just played it backwards, and it looks like it, and they did that twice in the fucking movie.
Yeah, well, Malcolm McDowell and his cat behaviors too was just horrifying to watch.
Yeah, he's really like, and that's what I'm like. It's perfect for him because it's like he gets to exaggerate his body and stuff like that, and he's just like he's a terrible puppet creature.
Yeah, and
With a
and then having him like inappropriately like touch his sister and stuff around the face and hair, and just like, ugh, he's
yeah,
awful. Like, he was awful.
and like adding to and we haven't even talked about like the not the thing that is constantly in the background in this movie is that like Malcolm McDowell, the brother, wants to sleep with his sister because they're the only two people who can fuck each other without murdering people. And that's kind of like that's kind of what this movie's about. And and like that's such a weird, like that's a weird choice. Like everything in this movie is a super weird choice. And it mostly takes place at an old zoo, like a 19th century zoo in New Orleans, which is a really cool setting. It really works, but I don't know, just strange choices all around.
Yeah, and he even like, I like how every time he gets like ends up in some kind of tiger prison or ends up beat up or like loses like a week of his life, he then again like hires another hooker and tries to restrain himself from killing her as a cat.
He just can't.
No, and then he just like, he's washing his hands in the bathroom, and all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, did it again.
Yeah, but I don't even think there's no resent in there. Like it's because he's more or less like he hates killing, but he also can't not fuck. And he's kind of made peace with that, I gather, and that's why partly why he's so fucking weird and hot for sister. And the Irina, the sister, she obviously hasn't come to terms with that that weird impulse, that weird tension.
But I get the impression that she also hasn't like she's actively got some kind of discomfort with being in intimate relationships to the point where she hasn't actually experimented with the fact that she turns into a fucking cat, or that's what I sort of gather.
Yeah, and like what activates it? Is it the fact that a dick goes in vagina? Is that the thing? Because like she earlier, and I can't believe I'm thinking about this, but earlier she's talking about like, well, cause she's talking with that Alice girl in the bar, and she's like, well, you mean you're a virgin? And then they have sexy girl talk, and she talks about how she was close with one guy, and then I guess she saw his cock and she left. And yeah, I don't know. The movie's like, it's so on the one hand, like if it looks harmless on the surface, but the whole time it's just I don't know. It just constantly brings up these really uncomfortable themes that like as an adult you're like, okay, fine, I can listen to these, but then like hearing characters talk about them so earnestly is, I'm not going to go as far as saying it's unsettling, but then you're just like, what the fuck am I watching?
It was like off-putting, like,
yeah,
because I was like, oh, people talk like this when they were in the like grabbing a martini after work. I'm like, nobody
just
talks like
having
this.
just met each other.
Like, who wrote this?
Yeah,
and they did such a good job making you uncomfortable. Like Malcolm McDowell did that, like when they were going through the family circus stuff, and he's like, they were juggling together. I was like, oh, what is happening?
Well, even before that, he comes up behind her and he like puts it, like he just presses himself against her, and like she's obviously like sort of visibly drawn to it, but not expressing it, and you're just like, there's a weird dynamic between everybody in this goddamn show. There's like the guy's murdering people and putting them in, like, and then it basically ends. Irina, she's I want to fuck you one more time, and before I turn into a cat forever, I guess. She gets tied up, and John Hurd awkwardly mounts her in the most unappealing way possible, and then it's revealed that John Hurd is, he's moved on with the other girl, Alice, and the cat's in the cage at the zoo, and he sees her all the time, and he just keeps her as a pet, and you're left to wonder what's being told to me here. What's the moral of this story?
There is no moral to this story.
Yeah.
That was...
Yeah. I just want to be. Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is why like we had to talk about this one first because it's just like a confusing bummer. Which with a great fucking soundtrack. Like listen to the soundtrack on this one. Spend a little time with it. It's Giorgio Moroder, and again, like this show has so much going for it, and yet it's such a mismatch. Anyway,
it's basically like Superman.
Yeah.
Speaking of good soundtracks.
I don't know if no, actually, you know what? The only reason the soundtrack on this is good is because it's the John Carpenter soundtrack, like for the most part, that you know.
It wasn't. I thought this was like heavily like reworked by Rob.
But when it matters, you know, when it's time for the tension, when it's time for the drama.
That little.
Yeah, a lot of that. Actually, you know, well, let's talk about how both you and I. So we're talking about Halloween, 2007.
Right,
Rob
Zombie's remake of the cult classic or horror cult classic, sort of. Right.
Yeah, I don't think cult really means. Yeah, it's just mainstream.
It's just like
classic.
an act like mainstream. Yeah. It's a horror classic. It's one of the.
Not to be a stupid nitpicker or whatever, but Terminator was inspired by Halloween. What's his nose was saying? I wanted a Michael Myers character. Anyway, so it's the remake, and so I couldn't buy this movie or rent this movie on iTunes. Did not exist there. I couldn't borrow this movie from my library.
This was on Amazon.
But it wasn't until recently.
Oh.
Yeah, it showed up for October.
Halloween.
Right. Yeah, right. So I stole it off the internet, which I usually don't do. And that's not signal virtuing. That's obviously I'm giving money to billionaires. There's nothing virtuous about that.
Right. Fair. Well, I don't know if Rob Zombie's a billionaire, but he's definitely not.
He's making some money. I'm thinking about fucking the guys that own Apple, but so I stole what was leaked, and I didn't know this when I watched it. It was a really shitty, like it was kind of not blurry, but it wasn't as defined a picture. It was more like VHS quality or some shit. And it was a stolen. But it was supposed. I gather the leaked version of what people saw prior to the theatrical release, and so maybe the soundtrack I heard was not the soundtrack you heard. So like because
it was very polished.
Right. Well, I think it was too, but I think it was mostly, at least with the soundtrack that I heard was.
You only got like a screener version because there's a version with these horrible scenes that I read that they edited out because they they did test screenings and people were like, oh God, like.
And that's weird. Well, you know, we're going to get into this, but the version I saw had a better middle and a worse ending than the theatrical version, which you've seen and which I kind of scanned through earlier today to spot the differences.
Right.
Not realizing that there was any differences. I was just looking for quotes for us to talk about or whatever. And I happened to just like be fast forwarding, and I was like, wait, whoa, what's this? So the
You know,
different.
you're gonna like
Oh,
this. I don't know if you
yeah.
know this. Rob
Uh,
Zombie was working with the Weinsteins when he
okay.
made this, and he hated it.
Right.
He had a lot of trouble with them. They were consistently fucking with like his creative vision, having him adjust scenes, shit like that.
Okay.
And then he went on to do the Halloween 2 because he had like the contract, and I guess
Right.
it was even worse. They're meddling and shit.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Even if they weren't, though, this is such a weird fucking project. Like to one, to do a remake, and then two, to decide that the problem with this movie, or I don't even know if it's the problem with this movie, but he was like, what's missing from this movie? Empathy for Michael Myers. And like I don't know why that's needed, but I think I see maybe what he was getting at. So one of the things that I had commented on, like when you told me we were going to watch this, I had said I had recently rewatched, watched for the first time the original Halloween, and one thing about that movie is like it's about a guy who escapes from an insane asylum, and he ravages middle class teenage girls, and then escapes to be a source of fear, which of just societal fear generally, which we know would be used to reinforce police activity. And that's what we see in society. Like, watch out for those van raper guys. We need law and order because there's van rape people out there. And yeah, there's some van rape people out there, but um,
Is
most
there
violent.
enough to warrant every single citizen of every single city paying over $1,000 per calendar year on their property taxes to fund the police?
Yeah, or at least not in the way they're doing it. I mean, like interpersonal violence is predominantly caused, by people that you know. It's not strangers attacking you, generally speaking. And so a societal approach to, and this is really off topic, but what I wanted to say is just like the original Halloween, it reinforces the idea that there's an evil out there, and it's stalking you, and it's going to ruin your middle class life, and so you need to be afraid. And this movie is like, it kind of wants to flip that on the head. Like, because Michael Myers in this story, at least in the version that I watched, is, and I don't agree with this interpretation. I'm just saying, like, I don't agree with this take. Actually, I think it's kind of boring, but nonetheless, I think. No, I thought the movie was great. We'll get into a lot of there's a lot of fucking cool stuff. It's just like, it's kind of stupid. Like, it's just Michael Myers was actually a victim of the system, man. Because in the version I saw, he gets gunned down by cops at the end, and his escape from the prison is very different. And anyway, I'm just talking a lot about, but the movie's, it's just a weird inversion of the original, and what it was
because
trying.
he's a victim of basically just like the Rob's interpretation of what middle class America is basically just like,
oh my goodness,
just hillbillies, hicks, trailer trash, monstrous rapers and abusers. And he channels this in a lot of his movies.
He does.
Like, yep. It's his bread and butter. This is what he thinks, or this is like his romance or his version of American horror, or like, he wants these animals to come out of the woodwork and just be this American hillbilly monster world, and it really, like, for me is pretty visceral. Like, I see where that could be a real thing,
Well, it's he watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it changed his life. Is kind of how I look at it. Like, all of his movies are what you just described is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and yeah, like even a House of a Thousand Corpses or whatever, like it's so um Texas Chainsaw. But then yeah, like I'm thinking, yeah, this movie is kind of, he's kind of trying to take Halloween and give it some of that Texas Chainsaw approach of um hillbilly violence coming to get you, which is definitely, yeah, that's definitely a thing for him.
But this becomes supernatural, like really fast. And I don't know that the original one gave you that little supernatural taste till the end.
I don't no, it was, yeah, I think you're right. Because yeah, he just seems like a really strong guy. Not someone that you can like beat the shit out of and maybe stab or whatever. Um, yeah, I think you're right. And then like the only person who really sells that the guy is like the ultimate evil is what's the doctor's fucking name? The guy that McDowell plays, Loomis. That Donald Pleasant is, yeah.
Yeah, man, he was awesome in it, wasn't he?
He's like, I just don't believe that he at any, and maybe this is appropriate. I don't ever believed that he cared about the kid. But maybe that's it. I'm not sure he did. Like when he's
that was a narrative that the police officer had, who was Worm Tongue from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Oh, I think of him as Doc from Deadwood.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
He's the creepiest guy. But his narrative too was that the doctor, like, you studied the kid for as many years as you could so that you could become the best-selling author of a serial killer book, and you're just a piece of shit.
Yeah. And it's kind of like the sheriff, like if I remember correctly, at first he's like, "Oh my God, it's you! I love your book." And they I want to talk about it. I don't know, but and then at the same time he knows the game. Anyway, we're getting ahead a little bit. Those opening scenes with Michael's family, when he was a kid,
like the opening scenes of the movie were
yeah,
like, because you never saw this, right?
No, yeah, I'd never seen it. I didn't know anything about it.
So this came at you hot.
Yeah, very uncomfortable.
You were like, oh, what the hell? Are you kidding me right now?
But at the same time, hilarious. Like William Forsythe, he's like, "I'll come across, I'll fist you, like I'll start your face." You're like, Jesus Christ, and they're just. But then when the baby starts screaming,
it was almost so B. It was funny. I like it.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Ronnie, I have to fucking work tonight. Somebody around here's got to make some money.
I'm all broken up here, bitch. I can't work.
Yeah, and whose fault is that?
Fuck you.
Oh my God, you're pathetic.
That new waitress over at the Bingo Lounge, she can give me the freaky eye.
Oh, the whore with the big tits hanging down to her knees?
Maybe I'll choke the chicken, purge my snorkel all over them flappy-ass tits.
Good, we'll have a good fucking time.
I will.
I hope she likes cripples.
Bitch, I will crawl over there and I will skull fuck the shit out of you.
Wow, I'll get the crutches for you.
He's big on that too. He loves himself like Rob Zombie when he films stuff. He loves himself like a B movie moment,
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he likes it to be a little funny, at least at first. Definitely at first. I think that's probably the case. But anyway, when the baby starts screaming, very uncomfortable, anxiety, and then it starts to feel like a real domestic abuse situation. And then he's commenting on the stepdaughter, on her nice ass, and then what did you say? And you're like, oh my God, these people. And then Michael's upstairs. And I had said to you, like, one interesting choice that this movie makes is it basically makes young Michael a juggalo, in like wearing that clown mask, or at least like, if not a juggalo, because obviously I don't know what era this is. He's wearing a Kiss shirt, right?
Yeah, Rob just likes Kiss. I read. I don't know.
Right? No. Well, it also, you want to put it back in time, like the movie, because it's a remake of Halloween. I guess so. They don't date it.
80s, because the
movie's 78.
Nobody had a cell phone, or did they? No.
I don't remember any cell phones.
No,
I remember like
nobody had a
bedstand
cell
phone.
phone, and the cop cars used were old. Everyone was using revolvers. So
Right.
it felt like he placed it in the 70s or 80s.
Okay, well that makes sense. That's good. You know, if you're gonna do it that way. Fuck, I don't know. Okay, so that shit's, and then, but otherwise, watching Michael decline.
Well, he consistently, like, the dad just consistently is just slurring him, calling him a little fag and just berating him about anything that he does that's even vaguely emotional would be considered effeminate, and just the guy's a monster. The stepdad or whatever, and then they flip you to these scenes where he's being like bullied at school as well, and while his mom's stripping or whatever.
Yeah, well, even before that, like he's you know, our first image of him is like taking a mouse and mutilating it in the bathroom,
and then saying, "Well, little Billy's passed away," right?
Yeah. And you know, and they've pulled that dead cat out of his bag, and yeah, like on the one hand, these are all like really troubling things to find, but the movie doesn't play it up exactly like that. Like I'm thinking of a movie like We Need to Talk About Kevin. You know, that sort of thing where the kids, I don't know, it's just because there's the B movie elements, like the kind of funny bits at the beginning, which still kind of dig through. Like on the one hand, I don't want to fucking tearjerker over Michael Myers because that's dumb, but you don't actually end up empathizing with them. I don't know.
No.
Sorry. Yeah, right.
No,
So like, what's the point of all that work? If the idea is to like present him as something like a human being, and I think this movie wants to do that, like with the end scenes, like showing a picture of his little kid brother or kid sister.
No, I almost found it was like just this grotesque theater. Like it was because then the mom, like, because they institutionalized Michael, that he butchers the family, right?
Yes. Well, in a special way that we're going to talk about.
They really amped up the horror when he started, like, because things took a turn. Like you were getting that weird B movie thing and that weird sort of like semi-comedic vibe out of like just how overtly offensive everything was. The use of language, the way, like the slurs, the homophobic stuff, the crazy. It was crazy. And then all of a sudden, they just flip gears and he just bashes that kid to death in the bush.
Yeah.
And you're I'm sorry. Oh my God. You're immediately like caught up. Like I was like captivated at that point, and then I was like in a really uncomfortable way. And then it just like it snowballs, right? He goes and butchers the family, whatever.
Yeah, and like this movie, another thing that it introduces to the Mike Myers thing is that he's like, you kind of like he wants to kind of have sex with his sister maybe, and he wants to kill his dad because he maybe wants to have sex with his mom. In some sort of weird prepubescent way, that's his only. Those are the only places he's gotten any kind of. Like I think his mom's the only person that ever gave him any affection, so he has like a backwards, almost like a backwards view of it. Like you're kind of he's building him as a victim. Right. But I mean, like, he's just showing that so many maybe extreme circumstances happen to him that he's not just a victim. He hits a point where he's just stripped of humanity. Yeah, but I don't think he goes through something that's equivalent to that. Like his sister's kind of rude to him. And the stepfather's a monster. Like, let's be clear about that. But there's a lot of individuals in life who experience stepfathers who are monsters and don't become Mike Myers, and they're not necessarily psychopaths. Obviously, they're probably very damaged. Don't get me wrong. But, you take my point. Like, this guy didn't end up in a concentration emerge as the spirit of vengeance or some shit. He's a very damaged kid but he's ultimately, he's just white trash. I don't know if his white trashness gives him special powers in this movie, or if he's just a fucked up kid.
I don't know, man. I think there's like when they transition to the well, because he mercilessly murders his sister, and then he doesn't do it with the baby. Come on, Boo.
Yeah.
He goes and sits outside with her.
Yeah,
Don't you love when he's heckling him about Boo? Boo. Stepdad.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like he's okay. So he's got a mummy complex. We can say that, and when he wants to nurture innocence, I guess he thinks his mom is innocent. I don't know.
The Sherry Moon zombie's a great mom.
Yeah. So he spends the movie. I guess we might as well talk. So he ends up in prison. He ends up put away.
Yeah, they put him away, and
yeah.
That's when I think like things start to get stripped away. Like that's when he degrades.
Yes.
And Malcolm McDowell becomes like. I feel like Malcolm McDowell almost compounds the problem. Like the doctor becomes like a monster, kind of like part of the problem. He's not making any headway. He's not healing him. He's just basically like contributing to him degrading in like just having less and less humanity and being more and more institutionalized. And then his mom finally commits suicide after he butchers a orderly
nurse that they left, but she was rude to him again, right? And I think I forget what she says to him. Basically, he's not a good boy, something like that. Yeah, and you kind of feel for it, like when and you're absolutely right about Malcolm McDowell in this story, and they want. What Rob decided is that that Mike Myers was not only going to be a victim of being white trash, he was going to be a victim of the penal system, and that was going to be the thing that gave him superpowers.
Yeah, I'm not sure when they transition the actor and they give you Danny Trejo, which I really enjoyed.
Oh. Okay, in the version you saw, he ends up fucking drowning and smashing Danny Trejo with a TV, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so in the version I saw, that Danny Trejo never gets hurt. He retires. Like he just kind of disappears from the story and is replaced by a new orderly who like I showed you the scene. And we'll get to the scene. It's going to like sort of reinforce the movie, the thesis of the movie that I kind of wanted to see.
Well, that orderly is introduced in my version. Danny Trejo's training him.
Okay, and he mouths off to the guy. Don't fucking look at me. I like that. I like his room, all those masks that Michael Myers makes in this movie. I think that's a nice touch. That he was like really obsessed with masks and hiding himself.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. That whole environment in the room was really I don't know. That's like a setting that I can't get out of my head. That like one of the sets that they designed that was like really particularly like.
Yeah.
That was when they went and when they flipped actors to Tyler Mane. And I really love that they used a gigantic mutant guy.
Yeah.
Man, it makes Michael Myers scarier.
Because he's basically like Kane or the Undertaker.
Yeah, like I don't, man. I'm not scared of a 5'11" guy. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how big the original Halloween guy was. He was bigger than a teenage girl. That's the only reference
well, that's all
really
you
had.
needed. That's all you needed.
Yeah.
For that type of a slasher. Sure.
Yeah. So in the version that I saw, one night that the new orderly comes by and they grab a new, it's a fucking sexual assault, like extended sexual assault scene. They grab a new inmate who's a young teenage girl, and they like, I got an idea. Let's bring him over to Mikey's room, and And I guess this ties into like the white trash sexuality and the violence of it is what activates Michael in the version I saw. Like he's lost his parole. He's going to be there for life, but he doesn't care. You're like in the version that I watched, and he just goes back to his cave and makes more masks and stuff like that. Like he's angry, but he's not doing anything about it. But then when white trash, violent sexuality returns into his world, and it's really jarring, awkward camera, weird rape scene way, that's what, and he's like, that's what brings Michael out into the world and gives him energy to be a monster. And that's cool, man. That's not cool, but I mean, it's a weird Rob Zombie horror movie, so it's cool within that milieu.
Yeah, and that scene, I did watch that scene, and I feel like there was a jarring transition, like that needed to be kind of included.
Yeah, because the version you saw is a Terminator movie.
He just goes after the cops completely reasonlessly and starts killing the guards, and then Danny Trejo then comes back in, checks his keys in, and is like, oh God, starts finding bodies, and then bumps directly into Michael, who then senselessly kills someone that was nice to him, which is just like, it's backward. It sort of works against the narrative. I don't know.
Yeah. If you want him to be someone at the end that you actually, not that you care about, but you realize maybe you should care about. I don't know. But you know what really what bugged me is when Michael Myers did that thing where the action hero puts a body in front of him before a gunshot blast. And I know it's stupid to say that, but I was like, that's so unrealistic for this movie. Like, that's not what Michael Myers does.
He's like a special. He's like James Bond.
Yeah.
And
I was like,
go after you on your next reload. Like,
fucking, and then just like smash it. And there was another thing. It was like he smashed someone's head against the wall, and it immediately broke his melon open. It was just a different level of strength and capability. It was just really jarring. It was a weird scene. I was really shocked to see that instead of what I had previously seen. Like, these are kind of two different movies as a consequence. But then Joe Grizzly.
Oh, Joe Grizzly, you like that scene?
Fucking awesome. I fucking love Joe Grizzly. In the version that I saw, there's a little bit more Joe Grizzly. You get
really? That's awesome.
Yeah, just a tiny bit more. He gets out of his truck and he's like, hey, and he's fucking just yelling at everybody in like a really like Joe Grizzly fashion, and you're like, I want a fucking Joe Grizzly movie. Like, I want that right now. That guy, that was amazing.
That guy, that's actually an actor that's, I think, friends with Rob Zombie, because I've seen him other times.
Okay. Right.
He's a huge dude too. Those guys are like, because Tyler Mane, just for your reference, is about 6'10", 300 pounds.
Okay.
So Joe Grizzly, no slouch.
A large fella.
So
just sitting.
Go on. I guess that part of that quote from that bathroom scene was from an old movie. I don't know if you.
Oh no, I did not know
trivia.
that. Nope.
Yeah, it was from an old movie where the quote was like, "Oh, we got a failure to communicate."
Oh shit, I know what that.
And I can't remember the name of the
fucking movie. Oh, it's from God damn it! I know that movie.
Luke. That's right. You're right. I think it was Cool Hand Luke. Yeah, and it was.
It's either that or The Great Escape or something.
No, it was Cool Hand Luke, and it was a little slide in there from Rob.
Oh, interesting.
Something he thought was funny. He's a big film buff too.
Like, I'm sure he is. Yeah. He makes movies. He's very likely film buff. That fucking exchange, and I counted the number of times that Michael smashed Joe Grizzly's hand against the bathroom stall. It was 14.
It was awesome.
And I was just like, oh my God, like, it's so. That's the Michael Myers that I think of. Like, he's just this really strong, unstoppable fucking force, and he's strong by according to the fact that he's a really big fucking guy, but he's not. His violence is still human, in the range of the human. Sort of unstoppable human range. Say that.
Yeah, like it's like a mentally ill human, like a monster, whatever. But like 200-300 pounds guy, and it was so cool to watch them just destroy a bathroom stall too. Like, just like that was bending, and I'm sure it was like a prop or whatever. But I mean, like, the guys that big could do that easily. Yeah. And it was just like, really, that was a good scene. Girl scene. And he gets dressed up, leaves Joe in his socks.
And that's why that, Michael Myers wears that mechanic suit. Like it's part of. It's like, where did Indiana Jones get his hat, right?
It was kind of like that, and then it was like but Rob did it, man. He brought you through all these like severe scenes and this horror, and then he gives you like, I'm Joe Grizzly, bitch, like right in the middle of the fucking movie. You had to laugh out loud. You're not human if you didn't.
It's really jarring. But then at that point the movie just becomes, up until the very end, an almost scene by scene remake of Halloween, with like a little bit of differences, but very, very similar. And I guess at that point I'm wondering, like, what's the point of this, Rob?
He cranked up the violence was cranked up.
It was, but otherwise it was the same thing. Like, the guy comes in, Michael comes in wearing the sheet with that girl, and that's the only thing that's, you're right. The thing that's different, the thing that is different, is that the violence is cranked up, but it becomes, the aesthetic of torture porn is inserted into the movie. I guess maybe that's the point of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then that's a Rob thing too, right? He cranks up the sex scenes are cranked up. That rape scene was really amped up and horrific. Any of the sex scenes are really like realistic and disturbing. Because obviously Michael eventually gets you while you're having sex every time.
Yeah, which is a proper horror movie, like, especially like that's what Halloween's about. It's about punishing sexuality. Yeah. And this movie definitely plays with that and recognizes that. But the version that I saw doesn't end the way your version ends. In this version, the Jamie Lee Curtis character, in my version, sorry, just one second. She ends up like just sobbing in a fucking pool, like an empty pool, in a bunch of leaves, and then gets saved by fucking Malcolm McDowell. And then, I don't know, there's some bits happen, and then all of a sudden the police show up, and Michael Myers is gunned down by the cops, and Jamie Lee Curtis's character, she doesn't get to be the final girl in that version. She doesn't get to be the girl that kills she doesn't get to be the pure virgin that kills the horror, which is the standard trope, and kind of the thing about horror movies that you can kind of like, all right, way to go, feminist. And it just completely infantilizes her. And I was like, that's such a weird choice. But then in the version you saw, the opposite.
Yeah, so like the version I saw had a worse middle and better ending.
Yeah. That was fucking horrific. Like, I only watched it very briefly, like the ending you saw. Just like she's like trying. I like that when she's like pulling the trigger and it's not going off, and she's scared each time she pulls the trigger.
Michael's coming back to life, and then it goes pop, and then just like absolutely fills her entire mouth with blood, and she just screams, and they just cut to the music.
They don't just cut to the music though; they cut to an image of Michael's. Is it a kid sister or a kid brother? Boo. Cuts to an image of him with Boo. and it goes back to the scream at the beginning of the movie because she's screaming, and so's the little kid screaming. I was like, oh, that's an awesome ending. That's it. It ties it all together.
Yeah, it was. I like that ending, and I actually don't think I've seen the other ending. So
yeah, don't like you should. I think you should because it's an interesting it's completely different. This movie's they used to do versions. I'm not comparing this to Shakespeare, but it's the only example I can think of. They used to do King Lear with like a happy ending. For like a century, they changed it so a bear shows up or some shit. And so like there's throughout history there's multiple versions. There's not one version of Shakespeare's any given play, right? And there's not any one version of Halloween, but at the same time there's not even any one version of Rob Zombie's Halloween. And that's so cool, I don't think you come across that so often. Like usually a director's cut or some missing scenes don't actually change a movie completely.
Yeah, because that's odd. Or yeah, usually they're cut out and they're like, oh well, that dragged or that was too much or that wasn't necessary at all. But these actually changed the film.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I like this movie a lot more because of that. I think I really liked it even when the version I watched. I was angry at the end though. I was like, what a fucking betrayal of the whole Halloween thing. But
you know what the funny part is too is the he gets really harped on by critics, and he was quoted in an interview talking about that. Mm-hmm. And he said he didn't want to he's not comparing himself to anybody special or anything, but he said he always thinks of it as like when people look at things, like he thinks like he will listen to something like he was talking about Space Odyssey. He's like, there was a reviewer that watched Space Odyssey and reviewed it for the first time and thought, this is shit. This is the worst movie I've ever seen. I really hate it and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And then later on in his career, he was interviewed and reneged on that and said basically just like admitted to himself. It was another filmmaker. I can't remember who. Right. Anyway, he's on record with this, so if you ever want to look it up. But the guy came back and said, okay, it was a great movie, and I have to admit that at that time in my life, it was ahead of where I was as a film creator. Right. And I couldn't admit that to myself. So right. I reviewed it poorly or whatever, spoke ill of it or whatever. And so then he feels like some negative things that come down the pike toward him, they're just not really seeing, what he's envisioning or whatever. But whether that's cocky or I don't know.
It's an interesting analogy. Okay, so I'm going to say that, I do think I don't think we could have had this conversation if Rob Zombie was fucking. This is a weird sentence. We couldn't have had this conversation unless Rob Zombie, there was some intelligence working behind, what he's up to. Like he's up to something. There's these movies are striving to do something, and he did ask John Carpenter, I'm making this movie. Is this okay? And John Carpenter was like, fine, make it your own. And so I don't necessarily care for the choice that Rob made in this movie, making Michael Myers, trying to explore him, but where else was he going to go to make it his own? And to try and invert what John Carpenter's movie was. It's really I don't know, where else do you go other than that, other than to make Michael in space or whatever.
Yeah, well, and I think that was the other thing too, is that Rob's white trash Deliverance style horror, which is typical of him.
Yeah, Deliverance is a good touchstone too. Yeah, honestly,
really it really lends to going into the white trash Michael Myers kid story. That's where his kind of gravy is, So yeah, I can see where he arced to that, But
I really like this movie. I think I already said.
I was just gonna say, was that surprised you? I kind of
it surprised
you would
me.
dislike it a lot, but I think that Rob got, I don't know. Like, I know we did the House of a Thousand Corpses thing way back and stuff, but I think that he like, I don't know. I think he like streamlined himself a little bit more as he went along. You know.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. He like, because that first movie was pretty raw. Like I said, it was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre pastiche. You know, it was just like, this is what I'm into, and I'm gonna make a movie about what I'm into, and it'll be fun because I got a lot of money. I'm Rob Zombie. You know, like horror is my like that's what I my whole character is about being a fun house horror carnival huckster drag racer thing, you know, so this makes sense, you know, like this career move. I think he was always into that.
Yeah. One other cool thing I read about Rob one time is that when he does like sound effects, and like you mentioned the knife hitting the stall 14 times, apparently when he had somebody get stabbed to death, I think somebody got stabbed to death on the stairs. Now I can't remember if that was in the second Halloween movie that he did, which I was going to pull on you, but I decided not to.
You know, I could have easily accessed that movie though, and we wouldn't have ended up having such a great conversation.
But he had them when they were doing sound effects. They would stab or whatever. I don't know what they were stabbing to make the sound effects, but he actually had them stab through whatever they were using, whether it was like meat or something. And he made them hit the stairs with it, like, because he wanted that sound of the knife going through the person and hitting the wood underneath. And that's just like a little detail thing that he looks for, you know, that maybe other people don't when they're sound editing and stuff. And it makes things real, like, I don't know, like that's what he goes for, right? It's that visceral, like, he wants to make you uncomfortable. Like, and he's got a great success.
Yeah. I kind of want to. I don't know. I think we got to come back to Rob Zombie. I know that would please you a lot. I think that it would be like we go back to Devil's Rejects or something like that.
Yeah, or I don't know. He had a new one that I haven't seen yet called 31. About 30 these people, they pick up random hitchhikers or something, and a van full of hitchhikers has the night to survive this funhouse with 31 murder clowns in it. It's like The Running Man. I don't know. It might be worth looking into.
Yeah. Probably some. Jesus Christ. This movie was great though, and I'm gonna give it 4 Halloween masks out of 5.
I'm gonna say it was a solid 4-star. I've watched a lot of horror movies, and I mean, like, to get this kind of like production quality and love from the creator, you know, whether or not it did the old one justice. I mean, I just think the old one was from such a different time that this was its own thing, you know, and it was a good spin-off.
Yeah, my four. I think it would have been a 3 if I hadn't seen both versions. So yeah, I'm going to give it 4 with the caveat that you got to watch both versions. There.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Keep going.
More surprises.
Yeah, big surprise. Huge surprise.
We should announce the other No Vetoes. The future of No Veto. I told you that I would like to watch. Because I'm fucking sick. We talk about Ridley Scott. This is the podcast where we talk about Frank Miller, Grant Morrison, and Ridley Scott generally. And I was like, you know what? Tony Scott. We're going to talk about Ridley Scott's brother. And we're going to watch The Enemy of the State.
Tony Scott?
Yeah, like Tony Scott.
That's who directed that?
Yeah. Enemy of the State.
Oh, that's awful.
We're gonna go back to the origin of lens flare. We're going.
Did he lens flare in that?
I have no idea. But when I think of Michael Bay, I think of like, you don't have Michael Bay without Tony Scott is where I come down. I don't know if that's proper or not, but I think I'm right.
You're pretty sure you're right on this. So I actually picked a movie and forgot what it was.
Oh, good.
So that's not super helpful. Yeah. So I'm gonna probably have to get back to you on that. Well, I initially wanted to do. I thought, I'll do one of those like clever things that. Oh, I remember what it was. Great. So I wanted to do one of those clever things where I went through the movie and I was like, I'm gonna pick another Gene Hackman movie. I'm gonna make us watch Royal Tenenbaums.
Right.
And I thought, that's, like, I don't know if we're really like, is that a comedy anymore? Was it just particularly catered to hipsters from a specific time? Oh, I got all weird. I flipped back over to Will Smith, looked through his bad movies, looked through some John Voight movies, almost settled on a couple things. And I decided, you know what? This might cause James to give me a bit of backlash at some point or another, but I'm just going to do it. I'm going to say Rambo Last Blood.
Oh, wow. Like the newest one?
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime.
Fuck yeah. All right. Yeah, you're going to get some fucking pushback on that. That's going to be great. Fuck. All right. Last Blood. Another movie I can't watch with my wife. That's like, it's all the fucking movies that we pick. I probably could have watched Cat People with her, but I would have just been very uncomfortable.
Well, we did. We watched a few minutes of it. Was like, I'm gonna go to bed. She's like,
shit.
Fuck, he's creepy. And then Halloween.
No one's showing up for that.
Oh man, I started it up. Kate's like, oh, go ahead, I'll do a little reading. And the opening scene came on. She's like, oh my god. She's like, okay, I'll spend some time on my own with this one.
Yeah, it's very distracting. That's an interesting. All right, enemy of the state. And Rambo. Who's directing Rambo Last Blood? Is it Stallone himself?
It's got to be Slimes.
I think this could be like we're gonna get closer to Chuck watch on this one, because like him and Sly, like they got some sort of working relationship, like because Dixon and we actually haven't reviewed this yet. Dixon, and I don't even know if it's been released yet because of COVID or whatever, but there was what was the fucking franchise? It was like but basically Stallone and had what's that fucking movie where all the action stars get together? What's that called again?
Oh, The Expendables.
Expendables. Yeah, I think Chuck has an Expendables book out there somewhere in the wild. And we definitely got to fucking talk about that at some point. Anyway.
Yeah, we got to touch in on that. Okay, so Adrian Grunberg actually directed this. He directed Get the Gringo at Apocalypto with Mel Gibson, Man on Fire with
Man
Denzel.
On Fire.
Yeah.
Tony Scott.
Yeah.
There we go.
He's also worked on some Narcos and stuff. So he looks like maybe Sly wanted to commit to the role, really. He didn't want to direct and act. He's got to focus on being Rambo. So.
Yeah. For the last time, hopefully. All right. Well, at least we got a fucking plan. Good. I was something in there that you had said. I was thinking of Apocalypto. I've never seen it, and I'm curious as all fuck on that one, because that's Mel Gibson. Like, didn't he write that? That's his follow up to.
To be honest with you, I thought Mel Gibson directed it. So I
thought so too.
Out to find out that this guy directed it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Writers Mel Gibson, yeah. Oh, director
okay.
Mel Gibson. Oh.
Okay, so yeah, because Man on Fire is a Tony Scott movie. So I don't know what this guy did. Anyway, he did.
He must have been he's involved in it because it's in his filmography. But
okay. Well, we're gonna get to the bottom of it, gentle listener. Don't you worry.
Hopefully not by watching Apocalypto, but it could be my punishment. Sure.
Yeah, that might happen. Actually, I had a couple really, I got some stuff on the horizon that I'm excited about and I want to see. I'm not going to do Apocalypto now because I already said it, but, or will I? Did Did you know that we are now the best reviewed podcast on all of iTunes? We have five-star ratings. That's not bad.
It's really good.
Yeah. I just saw that earlier today. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute, we have 5 ratings and there's 5 stars? I know at least one of those is fucking paid for. Maybe 2. But I was like, where did those other 3 come from?
Listen, nobody took any exchange of funds. It was pure pity.
Yeah. Pure enjoyment. But if you like the Extinction Agenda, give us 5 stars in whatever place you can do that sort of thing. That's good.
Yeah. And tune in to have us slog through some Sly Stallone.
Now, all we need is a little energon and a lot of luck.